Welcome back, Lincoln Currency. Have you ever held an ordinary brown penny in your hand, looked at its worn edges and dull copper shine, and wondered whether this little 1-cent coin could secretly be worth millions? Imagine finding a coin that everyone else overlooks, the smallest denomination in American currency, and realizing it's hiding a fortune so massive it could change your life forever. Today, we're diving deep into the mystery of the 1982 US 1-cent coin, a simple penny that, under the right conditions, can reach a jaw-dropping market value of $69 million. Yes, you heard that right, $69 million for a single cent. The kind of value that turns metal into a legend, and an ordinary pocket change into a collector's ultimate dream. Think about it. You go through your loose change, maybe at a gas station or in your drawer, and there it is, a coin that looks no different from the others. But under that small date, 1982, a world of rarity, transition, and history hides in plain sight. Why? Because 1982 was no ordinary year for the United States Mint. It was the year when America's smallest coin underwent one of its biggest transformations ever, a dramatic change in metal composition that forever split the penny world into two camps, copper and zinc. Before 1982, pennies were made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, a small, solid coin with real weight, about 3.11 grams per piece. But inflation and rising metal costs pushed the mint to make a tough decision. Copper had become so valuable that the raw metal inside every penny was worth more than 1 cent itself. The solution was drastic yet necessary: switch to a lighter core of 97.5% zinc coated with 2.5% copper, bringing the coin's weight down to 2.5 grams. This change didn't just alter the feel of the coin, it split 1982 into multiple varieties that would drive collectors wild for decades. That single year saw not one, not two, but 7 different versions of the 1982 penny, large date and small date designs for both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, struck in both copper and zinc compositions. Each subtle difference, from the size of the date's numbers to the metal's density, meant the possibility of owning a version so rare it could be worth thousands, or even millions, today. Now, picture the story that follows. Somewhere in an old jar or a forgotten piggy bank, someone discovers a 1982 penny with a unique error, a minting anomaly that no machine could replicate exactly. It's flawless yet flawed, a beautiful accident of history. Experts study it, numismatists appraise it, and soon it reaches auction, where bidding wars erupt. What began as a coin made for 1 cent rises to a dizzying $69 million value, celebrated as one of the rarest examples of the 1982 transition era. The hook here isn't just the money, it's the magic of how history, metal, design, and chance converge in one tiny disc that fits between your fingers. Every groove and glint of that penny carries the echo of America's economic past, the struggle against inflation, the innovation of minting technology, and the artistry of design that still pays tribute to President Abraham Lincoln. The 1982 penny isn't just a coin, it's a witness to a turning point in U.S. currency, where value shifted from substance to symbol. Hold it up to the light, and you'll see more than copper. You'll see the timeless portrait of Lincoln, his profile facing right, as always, surrounded by the inscription, "In God We Trust." To the left, Liberty. To the right, the date, 1982, and if it's from Denver, the small demon mark. Flip it over, and the reverse features the Lincoln Memorial, a design that symbolizes unity and remembrance, with tiny columns that, under a magnifying glass, even reveal Lincoln seated inside, echoing the front. United States of America crowns the top. E pluribus unum sits just above the memorial, and the denomination, 1 cent, anchors the bottom. It's this combination of design precision and historical timing that makes the 1982 penny legendary. Collectors spend years mastering the art of distinguishing between the large date and small date types, or identifying the elusive copper versus zinc composition, a skill that requires patience, attention, and a sense of wonder. Want to know a secret? There are even rare error pennies from 1982 struck on the wrong planchet, meaning they were minted on leftover copper blanks from 1981 when they should have been zinc. Those mistakes became treasures, because they captured the exact moment when the mint was shifting materials. And among all of them lies the legend, the 1982 small date copper penny, one of the rarest U.S. coins ever discovered. For decades, collectors doubted its existence, until one surfaced, and then another. Only a handful are confirmed, making each piece potentially worth tens of millions depending on condition and provenance. When one of these coins entered the auction scene, it shocked the world, a penny fetching a price tag of $69 million. That's not just a collector's dream, it's a cultural phenomenon. You might ask, how can something so tiny be worth so much? The answer lies in a mixture of rarity, perfection, and historical importance. Rarity because of its unique composition. Perfection because few survived the minting process without wear or damage. And historical importance because it represents the last breath of the copper era, the end of an age when American coins still carried real metallic value. So imagine the scene at an auction hall. The lights dim, the murmurs rise, the auctioneer lifts a small velvet case. Inside lies a single penny, shining, flawless, and certified authentic by the professional coin grading service. The crowd watches in awe as the bidding starts modestly at a few $1,000s. Within seconds, paddles shoot up. 10,000. 50,000. $500,000. 1 million. 2. 5. 10. The numbers climb like a heartbeat, echoing across the room until, finally, a voice cuts through the air. $69 million. The gavel strikes. Silence. Then applause erupts, history is made, and a single penny becomes a global headline. This isn't fantasy. It's the power of numismatics, the study and passion of coins. Each coin is a story, a snapshot of time captured in metal. The 1982 penny tells of an America balancing progress and tradition, value and practicality. When you look closely at that small date, or weigh the coin on a scale, you're not just identifying metal, you're unlocking history. Here's what makes this even more thrilling: anyone could have one. These coins circulated for years, passing through millions of hands, in grocery stores, parking meters, or between friends. Somewhere, a 1982 copper small date penny might still be lying unnoticed in an old collection or a forgotten piggy bank. And that's why coin hunters, metal detectors, and casual collectors keep searching tirelessly, because the next great discovery could be sitting right under their noses. Picture yourself joining that search. You start by gathering all your 1982 pennies. You sort them by mintmark, then by date size. You pull out your digital scale, noting the difference. 3.11 grams means copper, 2.5 grams means zinc. One by one, you check them, holding your breath each time you see a D mintmark and a small date. The anticipation builds. Could this be the one? The magic of coin collecting lies in these moments of discovery, suspense, and joy. That's why the 1982 penny has become one of the most studied and loved coins in U.S. history. Its varieties, its transitional nature, its connection to Lincoln, all combine to make it a symbol of both heritage and hope. But let's not forget the artistry that gives it its character. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln has been on the penny since 1909, celebrating the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. By 1982, that design had already endured for more than 70 years, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. Even as metals and mints changed, Brenner's work remained untouched, a tribute to Lincoln's timeless legacy. Think of the symbolism: a penny, representing the smallest denomination, the common man's currency, carrying the image of Abraham Lincoln, the president who rose from humble beginnings to lead a divided nation through its darkest hour. Every 1982 penny continues that story, reminding us that greatness often comes from the simplest forms. And when a 1982 penny sells for $69 million, it isn't just a record, it's a reflection of how deeply people connect with that story. It's not just metal, it's meaning. It's history, legacy, rarity, and emotion fused into one tiny object that proves value is never just about denomination, it's about significance. That's the hook, the mystery and majesty of the 1982 1-cent coin. How a small piece of U.S. currency, born in a year of change, minted in both copper and zinc, can command the kind of value that defies logic but celebrates history. Stay with me as we unravel how this transformation happened, why these varieties exist, how you can identify them, and what secrets they hold that could make your own 1982 penny worth a fortune. The story of the 1982 1-cent coin begins in a decade of transformation, a period when America was redefining its economy, its technology, and even the very metals it used to mint its money. The early 1980s were turbulent. Inflation was climbing, the cost of living was rising, and raw materials were becoming more expensive than ever. The humble penny, once a solid symbol of value, suddenly faced a crisis. The price of copper, the metal that had defined the U.S. cent since 1909, soared so high that by 1981, each penny literally cost more to make than it was worth. Every 1-cent coin produced in copper meant the U.S. Mint was losing money with every strike. It was unsustainable. That's when the Treasury and the Mint faced an impossible question. How do you preserve a national icon without destroying its identity? The answer would forever alter numismatic history. They had to find a cheaper way to mint the coin, without stripping it of its iconic look or feel. After years of testing and planning, the solution emerged: a new core metal. Zinc, light and inexpensive, would replace most of the copper inside. Only a thin layer of copper plating would remain on the outside to maintain the traditional reddish tone Americans recognized instantly. But the transition wasn't simple. The mint couldn't just flip a switch and stop producing copper coins overnight. 1982 became the experimental battlefield, the year when both copper and zinc cents were struck simultaneously as the nation phased in the change. For collectors, this accidental overlap created one of the most fascinating and complex sets of varieties in U.S. coinage history. There were large dates, small dates, different mint marks, and 2 different metals, all produced in a single year. No other modern penny series holds such an intricate story of transformation within one date. Now imagine the mint floors at that time, the rhythmic clatter of presses, bins filled with warm copper blanks from the last runs of the old composition, and trays of bright new zinc planchets waiting for their first strike. Philadelphia and Denver were both producing coins, and in the chaos of change, a few anomalies slipped through, errors that would one day become legends. While most Americans went about their daily lives, pocketing these pennies without a second thought, the numismatic world would one day look back on 1982 as a turning point. Because buried among the billions of ordinary coins were a few extraordinary survivors, the rare hybrids of the era. Some had copper where there should have been zinc, others had small date designs that were never supposed to appear on certain metal types. These were the accidents that happen once in a century, and they would transform the 1982 cent from a simple transition coin into a collector's treasure chest. To understand why these differences matter, you need to appreciate the precision and pride behind American coin design. The Lincoln cent wasn't just any coin. It carried over 7 decades of legacy by 1982. Its obverse, featuring Abraham Lincoln's dignified profile, was sculpted by Victor David Brenner, a Lithuanian-American artist whose design debuted in 1909. That was the first year the U.S. Mint honored a real historical figure on circulating currency, and Lincoln was chosen for his enduring symbolism of honesty, unity, and perseverance. By 1982, the image had become so embedded in American life that changing it was unthinkable. But change did come, not in appearance, but in substance. And that's what makes the 1982 cent such a profound artifact. It reminds us that even something that looks the same on the outside can hold an entirely different identity within. 2 coins, same face, same year, yet one heavy with copper's deep tone, the other light with zinc's hollow ring. It's the perfect metaphor for a nation in transition, balancing tradition and practicality. This dual identity fascinates collectors because it challenges the idea of sameness. You can line up 10 1982 pennies side by side, and they might all appear identical, but only a careful observer, a passionate seeker, will notice that one might weigh a little more, sound a little denser, and hide within it a legacy from the last true copper era. That's why, when a rare combination surfaces, like the 1982 D small date copper penny, the numismatic community reacts like they've discovered a relic of gold. The discovery of the first authentic 1982 small date copper penny shocked experts. For years, numismatists debated whether it even existed. The Denver Mint was officially supposed to strike only zinc cents with small date dies, meaning a copper one should have been impossible. Yet one day, a single piece appeared, verified, tested, and certified. Its weight, 3.11 grams, confirmed copper composition. Its date style and mint mark matched the small date design. That one coin rewrote what collectors thought they knew about 1982. Then another was found, and whispers began. How many more might be out there? Could one of them be even purer, even better preserved, even more flawless? Every new find adds to the mystery. And as demand grows, so does the value. The market treats these coins not as currency but as art, tangible history sealed in metal. The allure of the 1982 penny lies not only in its price but in the possibility it represents. It's the dream that one day, in your pocket change, you might find the next $69 million treasure, a coin that connects you to the mint's chaotic transition and the nation's economic heartbeat of that era. Now let's step deeper into its anatomy, its weight, its composition, its visual differences, and the small secrets that can help anyone identify which 1982 penny they hold. Because to truly understand why a 1-cent piece could ever be worth millions, we must first explore how its form, its design, and its substance came together in a way that history never intended but collectors would forever celebrate. When we talk about the 1982 US 1-cent coin, we aren't just talking about a simple piece of change. We're talking about a fascinating experiment in American minting history, a coin that bridges two eras of metal and value. To understand its worth and mystery, we must start with the foundation of every coin, its composition and weight. These two factors, though seemingly technical, are the heartbeat of the 1982 penny story. For most of the 20th century, the penny was almost entirely copper. Since 1909, when the Lincoln cent first appeared, its standard composition was 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. Copper gave it that rich, reddish-brown glow and solid weight that made it feel substantial. Each pre-1982 penny weighed exactly 3.11 grams. If you dropped it on a table, it made a crisp, solid sound, a metallic ring that coin collectors could identify instantly. But by the early 1980s, the value of copper had skyrocketed. The mint found itself spending more on raw copper to produce a penny than the penny's face value itself. Think about that for a second, a coin worth 1 cent costing more than 1 cent to make. It was like printing dollar bills that cost $1.50 each to produce. The government couldn't sustain it, and by 1981, something had to give. That's when the US Mint made the monumental decision to change the penny's metal content, a decision that would ripple through history and create one of the most studied coins ever made. Starting in mid-1982, the mint began phasing out copper and replacing it with a cheaper core, zinc. The new pennies were made of 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper, the latter applied as a thin plating to preserve the coin's familiar look. This brought the penny's weight down to 2.5 grams, a significant drop that could be felt instantly in your hand. Even the sound changed. Zinc pennies, when dropped, make a duller, softer clink, lacking the dense resonance of their copper predecessors. To the naked eye, both versions look almost identical. The same Lincoln portrait, the same inscriptions. Liberty, in God we trust. And the date. 1982. But beneath that copper-colored surface lies a different metal, a different soul. And that difference is worth millions. Here's the remarkable part. Both types were produced in 1982, side by side. For months, the mint ran both copper and zinc blanks through the presses. And because both versions carried the same date, 1982, collectors now had to rely on weight to tell them apart. That single detail became the dividing line between ordinary and extraordinary. To a coin collector, weight is the fingerprint of authenticity. The 3.11 gram copper penny has a dense, balanced heft, while the 2.5 gram zinc penny feels slightly lighter, almost fragile. So if you want to check which one you have, all you need is a digital scale accurate to 2 decimal points. Place your 1982 penny on it. If it reads 3.11 grams, you're holding copper. If it reads 2.5 grams, it's zinc. That small number difference can mean the world, because the rarest and most valuable 1982 pennies, the ones worth tens of millions, belong to the copper group, especially those that were never supposed to exist in that metal composition. Let's dive deeper. The United States Mint operates several facilities, but for the 1982 cent, the key players were Philadelphia, No Mintmark, and Denver, D Mintmark. Each produced millions of coins, yet both faced the same challenge: transitioning from copper to zinc mid-year without confusing the public or halting production. Mistakes were bound to happen. The Philadelphia Mint struck both copper and zinc coins with large date and small date varieties, totaling 4 types. The Denver Mint did the same, but in theory, by the time the Denver facility started using small date dies, copper blanks were supposed to have been phased out completely. That's why, officially, there should be no such thing as a 1982 D small date copper penny. But the laws of probability, and the chaos of mass production, had other plans. Somewhere between the copper and zinc transition, a handful of copper planchets were accidentally fed into presses fitted with small date Denver dies. The result? A coin that shouldn't exist, a minting accident so rare that when it was first discovered, experts thought it was impossible. These mistakes often happen during transition periods, when old metal stock wasn't fully cleared out before new materials entered the system. Now, fast forward to collectors today. Every serious coin hunter knows that the surest way to identify these legends is through weight testing. The genuine 1982 D small date copper penny must weigh 3.11 grams. If it weighs less, it's zinc common. But if it matches copper's exact weight, you might be looking at a multi-million-dollar piece of numismatic history. There's an elegance to how simple yet powerful this test is. Just a scale can separate a coin worth 1 cent from one worth a fortune. That's the beauty of coin collecting, science and luck intertwined. But composition isn't just about metal, it's also about longevity. Copper coins, even decades later, tend to develop a deep reddish-brown patina, often darkening with time but retaining their strength. Zinc coins, on the other hand, are more vulnerable to corrosion. A tiny scratch in the copper plating can expose the reactive zinc core underneath, causing gray spots or even small pits to appear. That's why, when you find a 1982 cent that's bright, clean, and untarnished, it's a small miracle of preservation, and if that coin turns out to be copper, its value multiplies dramatically. Imagine the care required to keep such a coin pristine for over 4 decades. Most pennies pass through countless hands, pockets, and cash registers. To find one from 1982 that's not only in near mint condition but also of the rare copper variety is like finding a needle in a mountain of metal. And yet this is what makes the chase so exhilarating. The weight, 3.11 grams versus 2.5 grams, might seem like a tiny difference, but in the world of coins, it separates the ordinary from the extraordinary, the everyday from the legendary. It's the key to unlocking one of the most valuable 1-cent pieces ever created by accident. Collectors often describe the copper 1982 penny as the last of the true cents. After that year, the U.S. Mint never again struck circulation pennies primarily composed of copper. Every coin since has been zinc at its core, cheaper, lighter, and less durable. So when you hold a 1982 copper cent, you're literally holding the last breath of a 73-year tradition, the final chapter of a coinage era that began in 1909. That's why the composition and weight matter beyond their physical properties. They symbolize change, progress, and loss. The 1982 copper penny is both an end and a beginning, the end of copper coinage, and the beginning of modern minting economics. It's a coin born at the crossroads of history, and that's what makes it priceless to collectors, historians, and dreamers alike. So next time you see a penny dated 1982, don't just glance at it, listen to it. Feel its weight. Tilt it under light. Because in that one small coin lies a story of transformation, from heavy copper to light zinc, from practical value to historic worth. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find one of the rare survivors that bridges those two worlds, the kind of coin that could turn the most ordinary day into $1 million discovery. Every coin ever minted tells a story, not just through its metal or its date, but through its design, the silent language of art and symbolism pressed into its surface. The 1982 U.S. 1-cent coin stands as one of the most recognizable designs in American history, not because of its size or its value, but because of the face it carries, Abraham Lincoln. This coin is not only a piece of currency, it is a miniature monument to leadership, unity, and endurance. And its design, though small enough to fit on your fingertip, contains layers of meaning that connect past to present in ways few objects can. Let's begin with the obverse, the front side, the face of the coin. Here we find the iconic right-facing bust of Abraham Lincoln, designed by the sculptor Victor David Brenner in 1909, during the centennial celebration of Lincoln's birth. That year, the Lincoln cent became the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure rather than a symbolic representation of liberty or progress. It was a bold departure from the tradition of allegorical imagery that dominated U.S. coinage before the 20th century. Brenner's portrait captures Lincoln in quiet contemplation, a leader remembered not in grandeur or motion, but in thought. His gaze is firm yet gentle, reflecting the balance between determination and humility that defined his presidency. The fine details in Brenner's engraving, the lines of Lincoln's cheek, the curl of his hair, the texture of his coat, were a technical marvel for the minting presses of the early 1900s. By 1982, that same design had been struck billions of times, yet it remained as powerful and dignified as ever. Surrounding Lincoln are the words that frame both his life and America's ideals. Above his head, arched proudly, are the words, "In God We Trust." This national motto, first appearing on coins during the Civil War, became permanently associated with the Lincoln cent, a spiritual nod to faith and perseverance even during the nation's darkest hours. To Lincoln's left is the simple but profound word, liberty. It's not decorative, it's declarative, a reminder of the very principle that defined Lincoln's vision and the nation's foundation. To Lincoln's right, we find the date, 1982. For some coins, just below the date, rests the small mint mark, D, the symbol of the Denver Mint. Those struck in Philadelphia bear no mint mark. This small letter, or the absence of it, has come to hold monumental meaning, especially in identifying the rarest varieties of this year. Now, the reverse side of the coin is a masterpiece in miniature, the Lincoln Memorial design. It was introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, replacing the wheat ears that had adorned the reverse for 50 years. Designed by Frank Gasparo, the Lincoln Memorial reverse is a symbol of unity, remembrance, and national pride. What makes it remarkable is not just the building's grandeur but its incredible detail. Even in such a small space, Gasparo managed to include the seated statue of Lincoln visible between the columns of the memorial. That's right. With a magnifying glass, you can see a tiny engraving of the very statue that the real Lincoln Memorial holds. It's one of the smallest yet most profound artistic touches in American coinage. At the top of the reverse are the words, United States of America, forming a bold arc that anchors the design. Just below it, centered above the memorial's roof, is E pluribus unum, Latin for out of many one. This phrase captures the essence of the United States, a nation of many people, cultures, and beliefs united under one flag, one constitution, one shared destiny. It is the perfect complement to Lincoln's legacy, a man whose presidency was dedicated to preserving that unity at all costs. Beneath the memorial, the denomination is spelled out in full. 1 cent. The simplicity of those two words is deliberate. They remind us that the coin's value may be small, but its symbolism is enormous. For generations, Americans have associated the penny with beginnings, the first coin you earn, the first savings you make, the first sign of luck when found on the ground. It's humble, yet deeply tied to personal and national identity. Now, consider the artistry behind creating such a design that could withstand billions of strikes without losing its clarity. Both the obverse and reverse dies were sculpted and engraved with microscopic precision, tested and reworked countless times to ensure the image would hold under high-pressure minting. The 1982 penny continues that lineage of craftsmanship. Even as its inner metal changed, its outer form preserved the artistry of two of America's most talented engravers, And yet, it's more than art, it's symbolism in motion. The Lincoln portrait, introduced in 1909, was chosen during a time when the U.S. was looking for heroes to celebrate not as conquerors, but as moral leaders. Lincoln's face replaced allegorical figures of liberty because his life embodied liberty itself. The memorial on the reverse, added in 1959, completed that story. It showed not just the man, but the monument that the nation built in his honor. Together, they form a full-circle tribute, the man who saved the Union, and the monument that eternally remembers him. There's also subtle genius in the way these designs balance visually. Lincoln faces right, toward the reverse side, almost as if he's looking toward the memorial that bears his memory. The obverse and reverse communicate silently across the coin's thin body, like two parts of a story joined by time and purpose. And then there's color, the warm, almost glowing hue of copper, especially on uncirculated coins. The reddish tones symbolize endurance and value, reminiscent of America's industrial roots, when copper was a symbol of progress and strength. In the zinc versions, this color is just a surface illusion, a thin plating that conceals the pale gray metal beneath. But in the pure copper coins, the color runs deep, natural, and eternal. When you see a 1982 copper cent gleam under light, you're witnessing the last chapter of genuine metallic integrity in American pennies. Every letter, every detail, every polished curve of the 1982 penny's design carries more meaning than meets the eye. It's not just a coin, it's a message cast in metal, a story of transformation told through symbols. The front speaks of leadership and belief. The back speaks of unity and legacy. Together, they capture everything the American penny has come to represent: hope, persistence, and the enduring worth of even the smallest things. And that's the irony, isn't it? The coin with the smallest denomination has one of the richest stories. It teaches a lesson Lincoln himself might have approved of: that value doesn't come from size or status, but from purpose and endurance. This design has endured for generations because it means something to people. Every time someone glances at a penny, they see Lincoln's profile and are reminded of honesty, of struggle, of history. The fact that this design remained unchanged through the 1982 composition shift shows how powerful its symbolism is. The mint dared to alter the metal, but not the message. That's why collectors and historians hold the 1982 penny in such reverence. It's a coin that preserves not only a historic transition in minting technology, but also the timeless artistry that gives it soul. It bridges past and present, reminding us that while materials may change, meaning endures. So when you hold a 1982 penny, look closer. Beyond the numbers and letters, beyond the shine or wear, you'll see Lincoln's gaze fixed forever toward the monument of his own memory, a design harmony that tells America's story in the smallest possible form. And perhaps, that's why a coin worth only 1 cent in denomination can command millions in emotional and historical value. To truly grasp why the 1982 penny became such a phenomenon, we have to travel back through time, to understand not only the metal change, but the political, economic, and cultural forces that pushed the United States Mint into one of the most delicate transitions in its history. Because the 1982 cent was never just an accident of composition, it was the result of decades of pressure, debate, and innovation converging into a single year of change. In the years leading up to 1982, the U.S. economy was wrestling with high inflation and fluctuating commodity prices. The late 1970s and early 1980s were turbulent. Fuel shortages, recession fears, and rising interest rates dominated headlines. Everything, from groceries to gasoline, was more expensive. Even the basic raw materials that fed American industry were climbing in price, and copper was at the center of it all. Copper, once abundant and cheap, suddenly became a prized industrial metal used in electrical wiring, electronics, and manufacturing. Its value surged on global markets, and that created a peculiar dilemma for the mint. Every copper penny it struck contained metal worth more than the coin's face value. By 1981, the intrinsic value of copper inside each cent approached 1.4 cents. In other words, the government was losing almost half a cent for every coin produced, tens of millions of dollars in annual loss. Lawmakers began to worry that the public might even start melting pennies for profit. In fact, some citizens did exactly that during copper spikes, smelting large quantities of older coins to sell the raw metal. The Treasury Department had to step in, issuing regulations that made melting cents and nickels for copper extraction illegal. But even that wasn't a long-term solution. Production costs remained unsustainable. The mint had already faced similar crises before. Back in 1943, during World War II, copper was urgently needed for ammunition and electrical wiring for the war effort. To save copper, the mint produced steel cents, coated with zinc to prevent rusting. Those grayish-silver pennies looked more like dimes and confused the public so much that they were discontinued after only 1 year. Yet that wartime experiment proved that the mint could, if necessary, change composition to meet national needs. So when copper prices soared again in the late 1970s, officials revisited the idea. Could they once again alter the penny's metal without disrupting its identity? Early prototypes tested aluminum, bronze-plated steel, and even plastic. But none matched the warm color or minting properties of copper. Then came zinc, a metal abundant, affordable, and already used as an alloy in the older bronze cents. The U.S. Mint and private contractors worked quietly on prototypes of a copper-plated zinc coin, 97.5% zinc, 2.5% copper coating. It looked nearly identical to its predecessor but cost far less to produce. In 1981, the plan was ready. The transition began in early 1982, with Philadelphia and Denver the first to adopt the new planchets. But the change couldn't happen overnight. The mint still had millions of copper blanks in stock, and waste was unthinkable. Production lines ran both metals side by side, old copper planchets being fed into presses even as new zinc cores rolled in. That overlap created what collectors now call the 1982 varieties: large date copper, small date copper, large date zinc, small date zinc, and their corresponding Denver minted counterparts. 7 distinct versions in total, each born from the same year yet representing 2 different worlds of metallurgy. To the mint, it was simply logistics, clearing out inventory while phasing in the new material. But to collectors decades later, that dual production window became a gold mine of possibilities. For every batch of planchets and dies, there existed the slim chance of a mismatch: a copper blank accidentally struck with a die meant for zinc, or a zinc blank struck during the copper phase. Those tiny moments of imperfection, barely a second in a factory process, would later create coins worth millions. Inside the mint's massive coining presses, precision was everything. Planchets, small blank discs of metal, were poured into hoppers, fed through conveyors, and struck under thousands of pounds of pressure. Each press could produce hundreds of coins per minute. During a transition year, the complexity doubled. Operators had to constantly monitor separate feeds for copper and zinc planchets, ensuring no cross-contamination. But with billions of cents produced, perfection was impossible. Somewhere, inevitably, a few stray copper blanks made it into the zinc presses. Those rare survivors, like the 1982 small date copper cent, owe their existence to that human margin of error. They weren't deliberate, they were miracles of chance. A handful of coins born at the exact crossroads between 2 eras. The mint's own documentation confirms how chaotic the period was. Internal memos from 1981 to 1982 show how engineers scrambled to recalibrate presses for the lighter zinc planchets, adjusting pressure and die depth to avoid fill issues when designs failed to strike sharply due to softer metal. Even sound tests were conducted. Copper and zinc coins ring differently when dropped. Inspectors could literally hear the difference echoing across the production floors. Public response was mixed. Many Americans never noticed the change. The coins looked identical. But sharp-eyed collectors quickly realized something had shifted. They reported lighter pennies, more prone to wear, and sometimes prone to surface bubbles, tiny blisters caused by imperfect bonding between copper plating and zinc core. This new penny, though efficient, lacked the durability of its copper ancestor. Still, the government had achieved its goal. The cost of producing a cent fell dramatically, saving millions in taxpayer dollars. By the end of 1982, copper was officially retired from circulation coinage. From that point onward, every penny produced was zinc at heart, copper only in color. Yet, ironically, that very success created an obsession among collectors. Because the moment something ends, people begin to treasure what's lost. The last copper pennies suddenly became relics of a bygone age, small, common miracles that marked the close of a 73-year tradition. And the 1982 transition year became the single most studied date in modern numismatics, a field usually reserved for older, rarer coins. Today, historians look back at 1982 as a perfect snapshot of American pragmatism, how a nation balanced nostalgia with necessity. The mint preserved the design, the feel, and even the color of the penny, yet beneath that thin layer of copper lay a new reality, progress wrapped in tradition. And within that transformation, the seeds of fortune were planted. Because whenever the mint changes composition, errors and anomalies follow, and those anomalies, when found decades later, can redefine value itself. That's the heartbeat of the 1982 penny legend. So when collectors today weigh their coins, study the date styles, and dream of the impossible find, they're not just hunting metal. They're touching the very moment America's smallest coin changed forever. When it comes to the 1982 penny, most people imagine a simple copper coin they've seen 1,000 times before. But collectors know better. Behind that familiar Lincoln portrait lies one of the most complex and misunderstood varieties in modern numismatic history. Because 1982 wasn't just a year of transition, it was a year of duplication, overlap, experimentation, and error. And from that chaos emerged coins that would later redefine what a single cent could be worth. Let's begin by understanding what actually happened during that year from a die and minting perspective. The mint produced 7 recognized varieties of the 1982 Lincoln cent, 4 struck in Philadelphia, no mint mark, and 3 struck in Denver, with a D mint mark. But beyond those, hidden within the billions of coins struck, there were a few legendary mistakes. The kind that happen when history, chance, and machinery align in impossible ways. Here's the official lineup of 1982 varieties. 1982 large date copper, 1982 small date copper, 1982 large date zinc, 1982 small date zinc, 1982 D large date copper, 1982 D large date zinc, 1982 D small date zinc. That makes 7. But collectors later discovered an 8th, unintentional, and incredibly rare version, the 1982 D small date copper penny. A coin that technically should not exist at all. To appreciate why it's so special, we need to understand the difference between a small date and a large date. On the 1982 cent, the difference isn't in the coin's size, but in the design of the numerals. The large date features a slightly thicker and taller 2 and 8, with the 2 curling down more heavily, while the small date appears thinner, with the 8 and 2 aligned at the same horizontal level. These differences came from die design modifications that the mint tested during production, possibly to improve clarity and strike quality. Most of the Denver Mint's 1982 coins were struck using zinc planchets, 97.5% zinc, 2.5% copper plating, making them lighter at 2.5 grams. Copper cents, in contrast, weighed around 3.11 grams. So if you ever want to know whether a 1982 penny is copper or zinc, the scale tells the truth. That difference of just 0.61 grams is the golden clue to one of America's rarest modern treasures. The 1982 D small date copper penny, weighing 3.11 grams, should not have been possible because Denver had supposedly already switched entirely to zinc by the time small date dies were introduced there. Yet somehow, a handful of copper blanks must have lingered in the hoppers or been accidentally fed into presses using the new small date dies. That's how minting miracles happen, through seconds of oversight that create legends lasting generations. When the first 1982 D small date copper cent was discovered in the early 2010s, the numismatic world was stunned. It was verified by the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, authenticated as genuine, and instantly became a sensation. Suddenly, every coin roll hunter, metal detectorist, and collector across America was checking their 1982 pennies, hoping lightning would strike twice. And it did, but only rarely. To date, only a few known examples of the 1982 D small date copper cent have been confirmed, with weights verified around 3.11 grams. Each one sells for staggering prices. The most famous example sold at auction for over $18,000, but experts believe that in perfect condition and with strong provenance, the next discovery could be valued between $250,000 and $1 million, or even more depending on collector demand. Now imagine this: a flawless mint-state example, graded MS68 red, still shining as if it left the press yesterday. That could theoretically fetch prices beyond imagination, tens of millions if the coin's story captures the world's attention. That's where the rumored $69 million valuations come in, not as a typical sale price, but as a symbolic estimate of its historic and cultural worth. A penny that changed the world. Beyond the small-date copper phenomenon, 1982 also produced a range of other errors, die cracks, and doubled dies that fascinate specialists. During a year of such enormous production, billions of coins struck across multiple facilities. Mechanical imperfections were inevitable. Here are some of the most notable types of errors collectors seek today. 1. Double die averse. DDO. Some 1982 pennies display faint doubling on the date, lettering, or Lincoln's profile. This happens when the die is impressed more than once at slightly different angles, creating a ghost-like duplicate of the design. High-grade examples can sell for hundreds or even thousands depending on clarity. 2. Off-center strikes. Occasionally, the blank planchet wasn't seated properly in the press, causing part of the design to be struck off the edge. The more off-center the strike, while still showing the date, the higher the value. Some extreme off-centers with visible 1982 can fetch $2,000 or more. 3. Die cracks and cuds. As dies wear down, they sometimes develop fractures that leave raised lines or blobs of metal on the finished coin. On 1982 pennies, collectors especially love the cracked skull variety, where a fissure runs across Lincoln's head like a lightning bolt. 4. Transitional errors. These are the holy grail of 1982 coins struck with the wrong metal composition. A copper planchet used during zinc production, or vice versa, creates a transitional error. Because both metals were in use that year, such mistakes were more likely than in any other era, making 1982 a perfect storm for transitional anomalies. 5. Wrong planchet errors. Rarely, a cent dime might have struck a blank intended for another denomination, say, a dime planchet. Those coins appear thinner, lighter, and sometimes silver in color. If one carries a visible 1982 date and the Lincoln design, it's an incredible find, often selling for 5 figures or more. Each of these errors tells its own story, and together they weave the mythology of the 1982 penny. What began as a cost-cutting measure turned into a canvas of mechanical art, every imperfection now a window into a fleeting moment inside the mint's vast machinery. But to truly understand why collectors go to such lengths, examining thousands of pennies under magnification, weighing them one by one, you have to appreciate the psychology behind coin collecting itself. It's the hunt, the mystery, the dream that somewhere in your pocket, or in a dusty jar of old coins, lies a piece of history that could change your life. Think about it. There are over 250 billion Lincoln cents circulating today, and yet a single one, just one 1982 small date copper, can elevate an ordinary person from curiosity to legend. It's not just about metal or money, it's about being part of a discovery that rewrites the narrative of the most common coin in America. Many seasoned numismatists compare the search for the 1982 errors to modern-day gold prospecting. It's not about guaranteed riches, but about persistence and luck. Coin roll hunters spend nights sorting thousands of pennies, armed with scales and magnifiers, chasing that elusive 3.11 gram reading that signals copper instead of zinc. Most never find one, but a few do. And when they do, everything changes. Even more fascinating is how digital technology has amplified the chase. YouTube channels, TikTok clips, and online forums have transformed the 1982 penny into a viral phenomenon. Videos of people weighing pennies, flipping them between fingers, and gasping when the scale hits 3.11 grams rack up millions of views. The excitement is contagious, because it's proof that even in an age of virtual currency and digital banking, a small piece of metal from 1982 can still ignite wonder. Professional grading companies like PCGS and NGC have seen waves of submissions for 1982 cents. Out of hundreds of thousands of coins sent in, only a microscopic fraction turn out to be genuine transitional errors. Yet that doesn't discourage collectors, it fuels them. Because rarity, after all, is what drives value. In the world of numismatics, rarity and demand dance together. The rarer the coin and the higher the interest, the more astronomical the price can soar. And because 1982 pennies are still being found in circulation, the story is far from over. Each new discovery adds a chapter to an ongoing saga that began more than 4 decades ago. When someone tells you that a 1982 penny could be worth $69 million, it's not just hype, it's the embodiment of hope, mystery, and the thrill of the impossible. It's a reminder that even the smallest coin can carry the biggest story, and that sometimes, history hides in the palm of your hand. That's what makes the 1982 US 1 cent so endlessly fascinating. Not just its monetary value, but its ability to turn ordinary people into explorers of time, searching for beauty and fortune in a simple circle of metal. Every coin tells a story, not just through its metal, but through its design, the art that lives on its surface. And the 1982 US 1 cent coin, though small and simple, carries the enduring vision of one of America's most iconic artists, Victor David Brenner. His creation, the Lincoln cent, is not only the longest-running design in U.S. coinage history but also one of the most instantly recognizable images ever struck on metal. To understand the emotional power of the 1982 penny, you have to step into the mind of Brenner, an immigrant, a sculptor, and a man who believed that the beauty of a coin could transcend time. His portrait of Abraham Lincoln, first introduced in 1909 to mark the centennial of Lincoln's birth, wasn't just a profile. It was a vision of dignity, humility, and quiet strength, the face of a leader who had guided America through its greatest test. That same portrait survived every change in America's coinage, from the Great Depression to the digital age. Through wars, recessions, and the endless churn of politics, the Lincoln cent remained constant, a small, copper token of continuity. Even in 1982, when the very metal of the coin changed, the design stayed the same. It was as if the mint understood that while materials could shift, meaning could not. Look closely at the 1982 penny. On the obverse side, Lincoln faces right, his gaze steady and solemn, a miniature masterpiece of human character captured in metal. Around him are the words, "In God we trust," arched across the top, "Liberty," to his left, and the date, 1982, to his right, sometimes accompanied by that tiny D, or sometimes blank, marking its birthplace. It's a design that millions of people handle every day without ever really seeing it. Yet for collectors, every curve of Lincoln's beard, every line of his cheek, and every tiny imperfection in the strike holds significance. It's not just a face, it's history staring back at you. Flip the coin, and the reverse tells another story, one of unity and endurance. From 1959 until 2008, the reverse of the penny depicted the Lincoln Memorial, replacing the original wheat ears that had graced the back from 1909 to 1958. The memorial design, by engraver Frank Gasparo, was itself a tribute within a tribute, a monument to Lincoln engraved onto the very coin that bore his face. Under magnification, you can even see a tiny detail inside the memorial, the faint outline of the Lincoln statue, just as it appears in the real monument in Washington, D.C. It's a detail so subtle that many Americans never notice it, yet it's one of the most poetic gestures in U.S. coin design. Lincoln inside Lincoln's memorial, a reflection within a reflection. By 1982, this design had already been in circulation for over 2 decades, but the switch from copper to zinc introduced new challenges. The new metal composition, softer and lighter, reacted differently to the dyes. It meant that certain details struck differently. Lincoln's hair might appear slightly weaker, the lettering less crisp, or the surface smoother due to the zinc core's properties. For collectors, these nuances became key in grading and identifying varieties. Coin grading is an art in itself. When professional graders examine a 1982 cent, they don't just look for scratches or toning. They study the sharpness of Lincoln's cheekbone, the clarity of the date, the brightness of the luster. Coins that retain their original, red color, that fiery orange hue of freshly minted copper, are the most prized. Over time, exposure to air and oils causes oxidation, turning pennies brown or dull. A 1982 cent in MS67 red or MS68 red condition, with flawless brilliance, is almost mythical. For collectors, that deep red shine is like a time capsule, proof that this tiny artifact has survived 4 decades untouched by the world's corrosion. The sight of such a coin under the light, glowing with a metallic sunset, evokes awe. It's no wonder that collectors speak of these coins with reverence, almost spiritual admiration. But beyond beauty and rarity lies symbolism. The penny, more than any other coin, represents the working class, the dreamers, and the everyday lives of ordinary Americans. It's the coin dropped into jars, found on sidewalks, tossed into fountains for wishes, or slipped into the hands of children learning to count. Its smallness makes it humble. Its endurance makes it powerful. That's why when someone discovers that a penny, the lowest denomination of all, can be worth millions, the story resonates so deeply. It's not just about money. It's about the transformation of something small and overlooked into something legendary. It's a reminder that value isn't determined by size or status, but by history, uniqueness, and the stories we tell. And the 1982 penny tells a story of transformation, literally and symbolically. It was born at a turning point, when America shifted from an age of solid copper to one of layered modernity. It carries both the weight of tradition and the lightness of innovation. It's a bridge between eras, a coin that lives in 2 worlds, one past, one future. Collectors often say that the Lincoln cent is America's diary in metal. Every nick, every toning pattern, every mint mark is a word in that diary. The 1982 entries are especially vivid, full of contradictions, experiments, and anomalies. No other date in the cent's history carries such diversity. And then there's the emotion, the passion that coin enthusiasts feel when they hold one. For many, it's the same thrill as finding treasure, but for others, it's something deeper, a connection to memory. A grandfather's jar of pennies, a dusty coffee can full of change, a child's first savings, all of it wrapped in nostalgia. That's why when people search for the 1982 penny, they aren't just hunting for wealth. They're reliving their childhoods, their families, their pasts. Think about the irony. A coin that once seemed almost worthless, 1 cent, now commands attention across the globe. Social media, documentaries, auctions, all buzzing with the mystery of 1982. It has transcended its material purpose and become cultural mythology. It's the coin that proves that miracles still hide in plain sight. Collectors gather at coin shows and conventions, bringing magnifiers and digital scales, telling stories of near misses and lucky finds. I thought it was zinc, one might say. But when I weighed it, it read 3.11 grams. That sentence alone can spark excitement through the entire room. Because among those who understand, that single number, 3.11, is sacred. It's the signature of the true copper variety, the impossible survivor. And that's what keeps the 1982 penny alive, decade after decade. Passion. Passion for history, for beauty, for the thrill of the hunt. Every collector knows the odds are against them, but hope has always been the heart of numismatics. Hope that 1 coin in a billion carries the story you've been searching for. Hope that something so small could one day be your key to fortune, or at least, to wonder. When you hold a 1982 penny, you're holding more than a coin. You're holding a conversation between art and economics, between past and future, between commonality and greatness. You're holding proof that even in a world obsessed with digital perfection, imperfection, like a mismatched metal blank or a slightly shifted date, can create magic. That is the artistic legacy of the 1982 penny. It's not just metal and numbers, it's human. Every strike, every flaw, every shine was born from human hands, human tools, and human intention. Victor David Brenner's original vision, Lincoln's quiet, determined face, still gazes across time, reminding us that greatness often hides behind humility. And so, this little coin endures, not because it's rare, but because it's real. Because it carries a soul, the soul of a nation that believed in progress without forgetting its roots. In the end, the 1982 penny's design is more than art. It's America, pressed into copper and zinc. It's our story, our values, and our contradictions, all captured in one small circle that still finds its way into our pockets, our memories, and our dreams. The story of the 1982 penny doesn't end in the past. It's very much alive today, echoing through auction houses, online forums, collector conventions, and digital marketplaces across the world. In fact, no modern U.S. coin has seen such a dramatic transformation in reputation and market value as the 1982 1-cent piece. What was once a humble, overlooked coin now sits at the center of one of the most passionate treasure hunts in modern numismatics, a phenomenon that continues to grow stronger every year. The market for 1982 pennies can be described in one word: explosive. Demand has skyrocketed as more people discover the fascinating complexity behind this coin. The transition between copper and zinc, the multiple date varieties, and the eras have turned what was once ordinary pocket change into a global obsession. Videos about this coin have gathered millions of views, news stories have highlighted unexpected finds, and auction houses have reported record-breaking bids from collectors hoping to own a piece of the legend. At the heart of this excitement lies one coin, the 1982 small date copper cent, the coin that shouldn't exist. Its discovery flipped the entire coin world upside down. When PCGS authenticated the first known example, it was like the modern-day equivalent of uncovering buried treasure. Experts couldn't believe it. The Denver Mint, by all official accounts, had completely phased out copper by the time that small-date die was introduced. And yet, against all logic, there it was, struck in pure copper, weighing the classic 3.11 grams, bearing the small date, and gleaming with undeniable authenticity. This single coin sparked a frenzy. The first confirmed example sold for over $18,000, but the attention didn't stop there. As word spread, the legend grew. Every collector, every hobbyist, every casual coin roll hunter in America wanted to find their own. Coin shops reported floods of people bringing in jars of pennies, asking to weigh them. Pawn shops started advertising, "We buy rare 1982 pennies." The coin became a cultural wave, but beyond the hype, the numbers themselves tell the story. Auction records from 2016 onward show consistent price increases for high-grade 1982 varieties. Even standard copper or zinc small-date cents in pristine, uncirculated condition can fetch $50 to $300 depending on grading and luster. Large-date versions, while more common, also command strong prices when perfectly preserved, yet nothing compares to the small-date copper mystery. Only a handful have ever surfaced, and most experts believe that fewer than 20 genuine examples exist worldwide. That level of rarity puts it on the same pedestal as the 1943 bronze cent or the 1955 double die, coins that routinely sell for 6 or 7 figures when offered. Imagine this scenario: a new discovery surfaces, authenticated, perfectly preserved, gleaming red. The world takes notice. Media headlines explode. Ultra-rare 1982 penny found in change jar worth millions. Collectors scramble, investors bid, and a bidding war erupts. That's how legends are made in the modern market. And that's why some experts predict that, if the right coin in the right condition with the right story comes to auction, the 1982 penny could theoretically achieve a record sale, even into the tens of millions. That's where the talk of $69 million comes from. It's not a random number. It represents the pinnacle of collector frenzy, a coin so rare, so historically perfect, that its symbolic value transcends numismatics itself. Remember, markets like this are driven by emotion, mythology, and scarcity. When those three forces converge, even a 1-cent coin can command prices once reserved for masterpieces of art. Just look at what's happened before. The 1933 St. Gaudens Double Eagle, a $20 gold coin, sold for $18.9 million in 2021. The 1794 flowing hair dollar reached $10 million. And the 1943 bronze Lincoln cent, the famous, wrong metal, penny, has sold for $1.7 million in private transactions. Each of these coins tells a story of rarity, chance, and human fascination. The 1982 small date copper cent fits perfectly in that same lineage. It's the 20th century's version of the impossible coin, the last great error from the modern mint era. But what's truly remarkable is that you can still find it in circulation. That's the magic of it. While many great rarities were known to collectors for decades, this one could literally be sitting in a coffee can, a desk drawer, or a jar of pennies from your childhood. Every day, someone new begins searching, weighing coins, and dreaming of being the next lucky discoverer. Coin dealers across the United States have noted a massive rise in people asking about 1982 varieties. It's the most requested modern coin we've ever seen, one longtime dealer told Coin World. Every week, someone walks in hoping they've found the $1 million penny. But behind the excitement, there's also a growing sophistication in how collectors approach the market. Serious investors now use digital scales accurate to 1/100th of a gram to identify copper versus zinc coins. Some use X-ray fluorescence scanners to verify composition without damaging their coins. And grading services have developed advanced imaging to detect even the faintest dye markers distinguishing authentic errors from counterfeits. Because, of course, with fame comes imitation. Counterfeiters have tried to fake the 1982 small date copper by plating zinc coins or altering weights, but genuine examples are virtually impossible to fake perfectly. Real ones show microscopic details in strike pressure, surface texture, and edge composition that only the mint's original copper blanks could produce. Authenticity, in this case, is science, and the best collectors know it. The surge in popularity has also fueled a secondary market for error and variety guides, digital catalogs, and even online apps that help identify 1982 coins. eBay listings routinely feature rolls of unsearched 1982 pennies, promising potential treasures within. Entire YouTube channels have dedicated themselves to exploring every detail, comparing large date to small date, copper to zinc, and teaching viewers how to check their change for rare finds. And yet, beneath all the noise, there remains something timeless about it. Every time a new coin surfaces, there's that pause, that heart-stopping moment when a collector sets it on the scale, the digital numbers flicker, and it lands on 3.11 grams. That's the moment when the impossible becomes real. It's a moment of discovery, of awe, of connection. The same feeling a prospector might have felt striking gold in the 1800s. The same thrill as an archaeologist unearthing an ancient relic. Because this isn't just metal, it's history reborn, right there in the palm of your hand. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents often describe their passion as a lifelong journey. They study dye markers, mint records, and striking pressures, not just for value, but for the story. They'll tell you that the 1982 penny isn't about greed, it's about legacy. It's about preserving a piece of America's transformation, from old copper to new technology, from past to present. Numismatic organizations have even used the 1982 cent as a teaching tool for new collectors, encouraging people to start their collections by hunting for varieties. It's accessible, affordable, and endlessly fascinating. It embodies everything that makes coin collecting beautiful, the blend of history, art, science, and luck. And while some chase the dream of the $1 million find, others simply fall in love with the details. The sound it makes when dropped, the way the light reflects off its surface, the smell of old copper. That's the soul of collecting, finding meaning in something small, holding a piece of the past in your fingertips, and realizing that even the most ordinary objects can become extraordinary when seen through the right eyes. So yes, a 1982 penny can be worth $69 million in theory, because its story, its rarity, and its legend make it priceless in spirit. It's not just currency anymore, it's culture, it's mystery, it's art. The 1982 1-cent coin has transcended its humble beginnings. It's become a symbol of discovery, of perseverance, and of hope. A reminder that even in a world where everything seems known, there are still hidden treasures waiting to be found. Somewhere, perhaps in a jar on a shelf or a drawer long forgotten, the next great 1982 small date copper might be waiting right now, untouched, unseen, silently glowing under decades of dust, ready to make history all over again. Now that you've journeyed through the unbelievable story of the 1982 US 1-cent coin, its mystery, transformation, hidden varieties, and multimillion-dollar legacy, let's turn this moment toward you, the viewer. Because this isn't just a story about collectors, auctions, or old mint machines. It's about discovery, your discovery. Somewhere out there, one of you might be holding that rare treasure without even knowing it. Think about it for a second. How many times have you emptied your pocket, tossed some pennies into a jar, and never looked back? How many old coin rolls are lying around in drawers, forgotten boxes, or dusty containers from years ago? Each one of those could be a potential gateway to a once-in-a-lifetime find. That's the power of this story. It's not locked away in museums or millionaire vaults. It's right there in the real world, waiting in the change you handle every day. Maybe one day, you'll be the person in the headlines. Local collector discovers $69 million penny. Imagine that feeling. The weight of a single copper coin in your hand, the disbelief, the rush, the smile that just won't fade because you realize you've found something the world thought was lost forever. But here's the real question. Have you ever actually checked your 1982 pennies? Most people don't even know there are 8 varieties. And within those 8, only one holds the golden ticket, the 1982 small date copper cent. That's the one collectors dream about, the one that changes lives, the one that turns the smallest coin in America into a piece of modern mythology. So here's what I want you to do. After this video, grab your change jar, your piggy bank, your coin rolls, anything that might have old pennies hiding in it. Find a small digital scale that can measure to at least 2 decimal places. Then start weighing. Each penny should weigh either 3.11 grams, copper, or 2.5 grams, zinc. If you find one from Denver with a small date that weighs 3.11 grams, congratulations, you might be staring at one of the rarest coins in US history. And don't just rely on luck, learn to spot the difference. In a large date 1982 penny, the 2 curls low and the 8 sits almost level with the top of the 9. But in a small date, the 2 rises higher, the 8 is slimmer, and then 9 appears taller and cleaner. Those subtle details could mean the difference between a 1-cent coin and a multimillion-dollar discovery. Now imagine this, you find it. You clean off that tiny piece of copper, you see the gleam, the perfect details, and you realize what you've uncovered. You send it for authentication, your hands shaking the whole time. And when the results come back, it's real. The headlines explode, the collectors call, the offers pour in. You become part of numismatic history. That's not a fantasy. That's a genuine possibility. But let's go even deeper. Even if you never find the $1 million version, you're still holding pieces of American heritage in your hand. Every penny has a story: where it was struck, who held it, how it survived decades of circulation. Some might have passed through the hands of soldiers, children, workers, travelers, each one a silent witness to time. So as you start searching, remember, it's not just about money. It's about curiosity, discovery, and connection. It's about realizing that even the smallest object can hold a universe of meaning if you take a moment to look closer. That's the magic of coin collecting, the thrill of finding history hidden in plain sight. I want to hear from you. What's the oldest or rarest penny you've ever found? Do you already have a 1982 coin sitting in your collection? Maybe you have one that looks a little different, or weighs a bit more. Drop a comment below and tell me your story. Who knows, your find could inspire thousands of others to start looking too. And if you're already a collector, share your tips with new viewers. How do you store your coins? What's the best way to identify varieties? Have you ever come across an error coin that surprised you? Your knowledge could help someone else make the discovery of their lifetime. You can even take it a step further: join coin forums, visit your local coin shop, talk to experts, and learn how to recognize authentic mint errors. Because every great collector started somewhere, often with a single penny that sparked their passion. And let's not forget the most amazing part: every one of you watching this video has access to the same treasure. There's no barrier, no secret password, no special access. All it takes is awareness and curiosity. The world of rare coins is one of the few hobbies where ordinary people can stumble upon extraordinary riches, purely through knowledge, patience, and luck. Now imagine, just for a moment, that you're sitting years from now, telling your story. I remember when I watched that video about the 1982 penny. I decided to check my coins that night, and that's when I found it. That's the story I want you to be able to tell. So, before you go, make this your mission. Start your search tonight. Don't wait until tomorrow. Empty that jar, check those pennies, and take the first step into the fascinating world of coin collecting. And who knows, maybe the next time we talk about $1,000,000 coins, it'll be your 1982 penny that everyone's talking about. Because remember, it only takes one coin to change your story forever. And so, as we come to the end of this incredible journey through the world of the 1982 US 1-cent coin, let's take a deep breath and reflect on everything this tiny piece of metal represents. Because this isn't just a coin, it's a time capsule, a mystery, and a mirror reflecting America's transition, innovation, and resilience. It's proof that even the smallest objects can carry stories grander than gold. Think about how this all began: a simple change in metal composition. The US Mint, trying to save money, decided to replace 95% copper with a new zinc-based core, plating it with a whisper of copper to preserve its classic look. It was supposed to be routine, uneventful. But instead, that single decision created one of the most fascinating, confusing, and valuable coinages in modern American history. The 1982 penny became an enigma. 2 metals, 2 designs, 2 weights, multiple mints, and hidden among them, one impossible coin that shouldn't exist at all. The 1982 small date copper cent, a coin born of chance, surviving against the odds, and now capable of commanding prices beyond imagination. It's the coin that defied logic, silenced skeptics, and ignited a passion that's still burning today. But beyond the weight and the value lies something even deeper. The 1982 penny reminds us that history is alive, not confined to museums or textbooks, but circulating in our everyday lives. It could be resting in a pocket, sitting in a jar, or waiting in a handful of loose change. That's the magic of it. You don't need to be a millionaire to touch history. You just need curiosity and attention. Every mark, every shine, every scratch on a coin tells a story. Some 1982 pennies might have passed through the hands of a factory worker buying his morning coffee, a student paying for lunch, a mother saving change for her child, or a collector sorting rolls late at night. Each coin is a traveler, carrying silent tales of people, places, and time. And now, decades later, that same coin, once overlooked, once taken for granted, stands as one of the most desirable treasures in the numismatic world. A simple penny that could be worth tens of millions of dollars. But more than money, it carries meaning, the story of change, innovation, and the pursuit of discovery. So as you step away from this story, take this message with you: never underestimate the power of the ordinary. The next great discovery in history might not come from an ancient tomb or a shipwreck at sea. It could come from the coins jingling in your pocket right now. The 1982 penny is living proof of that. When you look at one, you're not just seeing Lincoln's portrait or the Lincoln Memorial. You're seeing the final breath of the old copper era and the dawn of something new. You're holding a symbol of progress, adaptation, and enduring beauty. You're holding a reminder that even small things can hold immense significance, just like people, just like moments. And as for its worth, yes, some of these coins have reached unimaginable prices. Reports of auctions soaring into millions, rumors of $69 million valuations, collectors competing for ownership. They're not just about greed or rarity. They're about passion. They're about a community united by curiosity, bound by history, and driven by the thrill of the hunt. Because deep down, it's not really about the money, it's about the story. It's about that spark you feel when you realize something ordinary can hide extraordinary secrets. It's about finding beauty in the forgotten, value in the overlooked, and meaning in the mundane. So the next time you hold a penny, don't just glance at it and toss it aside. Look at it closely. Feel its texture. Study its year. Check its weight. You never know, you might be holding a miracle from 1982. And if you're lucky enough, patient enough, or just curious enough to uncover that rare piece, remember this moment. because that discovery will connect you to every collector, every historian, and every dreamer who ever believed that treasures still exist in plain sight. Let this story inspire you to search, to learn, to explore, not just for coins, but for anything in life that hides deeper meaning beneath a simple surface. Whether it's a forgotten hobby, an old photo, or a tiny object that tells a bigger story, everything has potential if you take the time to look closer. So, as we close this chapter, remember, the 1982 US penny isn't just a coin. It's a symbol. It's a teacher. It's a whisper from the past reminding us that greatness can come from the smallest things. Keep your eyes open, your mind curious, and your heart ready for discovery, because your story might be written in the smallest details of all. Thank you for joining me on this journey through time, metal, mystery, and meaning. If you've enjoyed this exploration, don't forget to share it with other dreamers, collectors, and seekers of hidden treasures. Let's keep the story of the 1982 penny alive, because as long as there's curiosity, there will always be discovery. And maybe, just maybe, the next world record won't come from an ancient vault or a billionaire's collection, it'll come from you. The next time you pick up a penny, remember, it might be worth a fortune, or it might just be worth a story. Either way, it's priceless. Because in the world of coins, even the smallest cent can hold the biggest secret. Thank you for watching, and never stop searching.